Welcome to episode 217 of Fresh Yard 5. In this episode, we talk about clarity, engagement, building a team, visual tools for creating graphics, and so much more. Thanks for listening. And on to episode 217, Fresh Yard 5.
This is Robin Wilson, host of The Education Connection, a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Each show on the network is independently owned, and the views expressed may not represent those of other podcasts. For the best education podcast, visit edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Yard 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Brian Carpenter, coming to you every week from Abbotsford, which is about 45 minutes east of Vancouver, British Columbia, on the west coast of Canada. Fresh Yard 5 is my regular attempt to get some fresh air by walking about my neighborhood, which is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Stolo people, the Simath First Nation and Mathwe First Nation. I consume podcast content while I walk, then reflect on this content in an unedited video, which I post on my X, formerly known as Twitter, channel every day. This podcast is the collection of the audio taken from those daily selfie videos over the course of a week, Monday to Friday. So let's jump into my listening and learning this past week. Hey, PLN, it's Monday, May 12, 2025, back from our MyPETA Spring Conference meeting this past weekend, an executive meeting. And so we had Pro D on Friday. Our team rocked it. People were jazzed and impressed and learned a lot in the learning space that we were in. And then on Saturday, we met together as a team and we went through some stuff that was challenging and hard. And where are we going and how are we going to get there and working together? And we're all volunteers on our MyPETA executive. And how are we going to make sure that we have the capacity to do our jobs as well as thrive in our workspaces and bring it all, you know? And so it was a great weekend. My wife and I celebrated our 26th wedding anniversary on Thursday when we were up there in Squamish, and that was nice to be there and have time with her. And we're back to it now. We got home, Mother's Day happened, my kids put on a nice dinner for my wife. It was fantastic. I saw my mom and gave her the bookmark that I made in school with my students that has a video QR code so she could watch a video that I made for her as well. All right, I'm going to run out of time here in a moment, but I'm going to get started. I listened to Empowering Educators podcast with Gretchen Bridger, and she brings us an interview called Bringing Clarity to Schools, Clarity in Schools with Casey Watts. And Casey has a book about clarity and how clarity is important for our capacity. If we aren't clear of where we're going and what's going on in our spaces, it's hard to show up and be all there. All right. This past weekend, as we're at MyPETA, this is a volunteer opportunity. This is not our job, but we talked about our clarity of what we're doing, what our point is moving forward, our conferences that we're going to run, etc. And it helped us get to the work that we have to do. What about schools? How's that going? And you know, as I go to school today, it's a short week because we have Pro D on Friday, and I'll be right back. The last thing for May 12, 2025, carrying on my thoughts about clarity in schools, a podcast I listened to with Gretchen Bridger on the Empowering Educators podcast with guest Casey Watts, talking about clarity and moving forward. I said this is a short week for teaching because we've got Pro D on Friday. And that Pro D on Friday is our opportunity to do some learning on our own, self-directed. Our team's going to come together and talk about what our clarity and what's our purpose being at school. And we have our jobs. We are online teachers. We work in our physical space with students, supervise exams, all those things. And how are we doing? What's been working well? What is not working well? What's our capacity? We need to have the clarity so that we can know what our capacity is. And we're running out of capacity this year because we are struggling with what is going on and how it's going on. So that being said, I'm going to stop right now and appreciate Casey Watts for her thoughts with Gretchen Bridger. And I appreciate you, Gretchen, for sharing, and keep on doing it. All right. Happy Monday. Bye. Good morning, PLN. It's May 14, 2025. Out for fresh air at 5, and the rain just stopped. I'm thankful for that. And it's a beautiful morning. I can hear the birds chirping. I'm sure you can in the background of the audio as I record. And when I'm putting this together at the end of the week, I listen to all the birds in the morning when I'm building the audio file for the podcast. And it's so refreshing to hear the spring life happening. And the spring, to me, is part of that is birds chirping. So, okay, as I'm walking this morning, listen to episode 134 of Evolving with Gratitude with Lainey Rowell, as she has on guest Miriam Sandler, who talks about playful by design and having intentionality in how we support our students, not our students, our children, our own children in our homes, their independence in play, and not playing for them, but giving them the opportunity to play themselves. And so it seems like a lot of structure and effort that goes into this. But what's important is that we allow our kids to play independently and get dirty and do the things, as opposed to us having to structure all facets of their life. We do that with everything from their schedules to their activities, to their meals, to their bedtime, to everything, and giving them a chance to play on their own, near us as they need, and away from us as they need and are getting more independent is important. The important part for becoming resilient is independence. And so if we can have our kids experience independence in a part of their life that they can control, that goes a long ways. So take a listen to this, because Miriam and Lainey do a much better job of explaining playful by design than I just did, but it just resonates with me as a dad, as a teacher, and providing boundaries for our children. All right, thanks. The last thing for May 14, 2025, I listened to episode 54 of Why Edify with Jeremy Jorgensen, as he brings us fun, focus, and something else for the end of the school year, strategies for getting to the end of it. And Jeremy, I'm glad to hear you on the air again, and it's super fun to hear you engaging in some brand new learning for yourself as you are learning to podcast and get your stuff out there. So take a listen to Jeremy, subscribe to his channel, because he needs some support and some encouragement, and just take a listen because he's putting out some good content here. I was a guest on his episode a week ago, so you can go listen to us talk. And since then, he put out a solo episode. He's got some talking about focus and how to keep students focused in these last few days of, maintaining structure in your classroom, providing some activities that are maybe not the regular activities that have been done, talks about going on virtual field trips, and wrap up things like that, time capsules. So Jeremy talks a lot of things in his episode 54 of Why Edify. Take a listen for yourself. Thanks. Hey, PLN, it's Friday, May 16, 2025. Happy birthday to my son, as he is 22 years old now. Wow. He was young when I started teaching, and now I'm here. And all right. So this morning, as I woke up, it was pouring rain. So I did not go for my walk, but recently listened to episode 124 of the Educational Duct Tape podcast with Jake Miller. And Jake had on special guest, me. It was my opportunity to talk with Jake on his podcast, and we talked a couple months ago and it finally aired. We had some audio issues, so sorry about that. As we were talking, my microphone fell down and I had to change to my PC mic. So unfortunate. We talked about visuals, tools for making visuals like Adobe Express, Canva, Google Slides, and Google Drawings, and how to implement some of these things in our classrooms and levels and things like that. So it was really great to go back and listen to my conversation with Jake. Very meta, Jake, as I'm reflecting on that now, as we talked about a lot of things. And one thing that I missed, Jake, was the Two Truths and a Lie segment that we recorded, because I thought the dumpster fire was entertaining, to talk about my first dumpster fire. Okay, so take a listen to this. I think we have some good conversation back and forth. Jake's got some great thoughts as well about using these tools, and hope you're inspired. Thanks for listening to Jake. If you're not subscribed to Jake, you need to subscribe, because Jake's got great content that's coming out on a regular basis. He gives some updates at the end, one about Google Classroom. Don't use that, so can't feel the joy there. But he talks about the Brisk teaching tool for creating mini podcast episodes out of content, kind of like Notebook LM does. He gives a comparison with those things. And there's one more thing that I can't remember what he talked about, but it's really good. So go listen for yourself. Thanks, bye. One more thing for May 16, 2025. Don't be a mosquito. Man, oh man, what a title. That got my attention as I picked up episode 83 of X Factor Level Up Your Mental Game with Brian Martin, as he brings us an episode where he talks about how do we enter a room. Do we enter a room all about me and buzzing and making noise, sucking the life out of everybody that's in the room? Or what do we bring? How do we walk into a room and bring joy and fullness and our presence, but forgiving to others? What do we bring to others as we walk into the room? There's a whole lot more into here, but don't be a mosquito. That's it. Don't walk in a room and be annoying, because people don't need that. How can you lift them up? How can you make a difference for them? All right, Brad, keep on going, man. And I don't think we're going to see the sunrise here, because it is gray and soggy outside, but it's rising somewhere, so enjoy that. All right, the last thing for May 16, 2025, listen to Season 5, Episode 35 of Teach Happier with Suzanne Daly. And Suzanne, thank you so much for sharing snippets from The 5 Types of Wealth by Sahil Bloom over this past few weeks. And I am going to consider getting this book and being part of your book club this summer, as it sounds inspiring to consider how we can look at wealth in our life other than just the dollars, but the richness of the activities and relationships that we have in our life. All right, so today you have two types of ideas, two different ideas for us. One about social wealth and the other about emotional wealth. Hang on, I gotta find out. It's social wealth and mental wealth. For the social wealth, it's about creating a Cartesian graph. And this speaks to me as like a scientist, a way to visualize things where you have our X and Y. You have the supportive and demeaning relationships on the X-axis, demeaning on the left, supportive on the right, and daily and rare on the vertical, with daily on the top and rare on the bottom, listing 10 to 15 people, and put them on the graph as to whether they have a supportive relationship and daily. Those are the green zone compared to the demeaning and daily. That's the red zone. We should consider how we interact with the people around us to bring richness to our lives. And then with the mental wealth, we're talking about low competency and high competency compared to the vertical. What was the vertical? It was about, joyful on the top brings a lot of joy, and joy draining on the bottom, and plotting our activities on this chart to see what's in the green zone and what's in the red zone on the top two coordinates or sections of the graph. You know, Suzanne, it's important that we consider and think about and reflect on our lives. And thank you so much for the work you do. It brings meaning to me because the things you talk about are easy to implement, and I like to share them and consider them and think about them as I go through my days. All right, talk to you all soon. Have a happy weekend. It's a long weekend here in British Columbia. Victoria Day on Monday, and I'm heading out fishing with some friends, and my wife and his wife. We're going up to Sun Peaks Resort, spending the week at the resort and fishing in the nearby lakes. Okay, bye.
I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's like a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find some other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific episode podcast titles and episode numbers in the show notes, which are only a click or swipe away for your learning convenience. I've also started to put together a Spotify playlist of each of the episodes so that you can also take a listen to those specifically, and the link to that playlist is in the show notes. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoy this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. You can also follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Brian Carr, BRYONCAR, or at Fresh Air at 5. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can be found on the Educational Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. I hope you have a fantastic day. Get some fresh air before the day is out and take care of yourself because you are worth it.